Here on the CLNS Media Network. I am Mike Kadlick alongside 98.5 The Sports Hub's Alex Barth. We're here to break down the Patriots. Call it interesting, crazy, exciting, boring, all in one big mashup. 10-3 win over the Jets this afternoon. We'll go rapid fire style like we've started. Oh, sorry, I lost. I got it.
We still got you? Hello?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out my. Oh, there we go. We're gonna go rapid fire style. I had YouTube up and then I heard myself 3 times over.
Oh, yeah. No, that's why I'm always looking right here. I keep my phone down here and I have the show because I like to monitor the chat and see what people are saying. But the first thing I do as soon as we start is turn the sound down.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Didn't mute it. Rapid fire style with takeaways, plays of the game, player of the game. We'll do some question marks moving forward. Talk about some under the radar storylines, and then we'll wrap it up going around the NFL. But obviously, don't want to bury the lead here. I assume this is both of our plays of the day, Alex, and that is the 84-yard game-winning punt return touchdown by Patriots rookie Marcus Jones. It was 3-3 with 25 seconds left. Jets decided to punt it away. They didn't punt it out of bounds, and Jones was due. He's had a good season overall, returning the football here. But yeah, he was due and he took it to the house. So I would say that that's absolutely today's play of the game.
Yeah, maybe the play of the week, the first punt return touchdown of the season in the NFL. You mentioned them not kicking it out of bounds. A lot of the kicks in the game for both teams were going towards the Jets sideline. That's what the wind dictated. The wind was blowing across the stadium towards the visitor sideline. There was no, you weren't kicking with or against the wind today. It was straight across, east to west. And I wonder if the Jets were trying to kick it out of bounds because he'd angled the kicks in that direction quite a bit. And he actually got bit a couple times because the wind took it too much and probably shortchanged him. I wonder if he tried taking a little bit off the angle so that he can maximize the distance while still keeping the sideline in play, and the wind just died down on him, or he mishit it, or whatever. But I think they're trying to kick it out of bounds. I don't know why they wouldn't have. I thought they were trying to kick it out of bounds. And we can get into it a little more here, but that was just what a moment. What a moment.
Yeah, it was nuts. The place was shaking. Me and Alex obviously there at Gillette Stadium, but the press box was literally shaking. The place was going nuts. So yeah, insane moment. Like you said about them not kicking it out of bounds. I was actually I was talking to Devin McCourty in the locker room after the game. Just asked him if he'd ever been involved in a game like that in his career, and he said no, and he was like, he couldn't pinpoint any other time he's ever even seen it besides Deshaun Jackson's miracle at the Meadowlands 2 a few years back against the Giants. And just so happens that's actually the last time it has happened, a walk-off, if you will, within 5 seconds of the game, punt return touchdown. So again, like you said, in a game that was super, boring, it was good defense mixed with bad offense. We talked about it, just sicko mode football. But it was just lull after lull, stop after stop. It's waiting for something to happen, waiting for that team to get their 3 points, get the next 3 points, and just call it a day. And then that happens. It was sensational.
So here's what I'll say to that, in it being a boring game and whatever. Whether people want to admit it or not, whether they realize it or not, I know people want to dump on that game. That game, and I wrote about this on 985thesportshub.com, was my main takeaway. That game is why we all love football. That game was why football, to its core, is the absolute best, because those teams spent 2 weeks. Remember, coming off the bye, this wasn't the usual 1 week prep. Those teams spent 2 weeks. They just played each other too, going through with a fine comb everything they did in that first matchup, everything they did in the first half of the season, making tweaks here and there, right? Hours upon hours upon hours in the film room, on the practice field, putting it all together. They finally, after 2 weeks of work, they play. Every single yard in that game was a battle. Every single yard, one way or the other, is an absolute battle. And it comes down to, for 59 minutes and 50 seconds, just tooth and nail. Forget what the score was. 59 minutes and 50 seconds fighting tooth and nail. And then a rookie who was hurt earlier in the game comes back in, gets 4 key blocks from rookies, UDFAs, Brendan Schooler, DeMarcus Mitchell. It was Brendan Schooler, or 3. Brennan Schooler, DeMarcus Mitchell, and Raleigh Webb, who wasn't just
Yep.
a UDFA, but was claimed off of waivers about a month ago. Spring him for the first punt return touchdown of the season. Like you said, the first the first one in that circumstance since whatever year that Miracle in the Meadowlands was. What was it, like 2010?
Something like that. Yeah, 12 years ago now.
12 years ago. So that would be 2010.
Yeah.
Just what a moment. And people will say, oh, we love football for that moment, right? Yeah, that moment was great. The game sucked. That moment was great. What people don't realize is, well, what makes the moment great? It's everything that happens in between those moments that set it up. Football is cumulative. I've said this before in slightly different context, but it applies again here. No football game has ever in the history of the sport, I truly believe this, been won or lost on a single play. It's never happened because, again, it's all cumulative. So you go back to some of those sacks they got. You go back to, it probably should have been an interception, but the Jonathan Jones pass breakup. You go back to that questionable holding penalty that if that doesn't get called, there's still a minute left, right? The punt's different, all of it. It all built to that moment. And I know people will say, oh, what happened in between didn't excite me, but like it's the tension building. That's the thing. It's the tension building to it. So that, like, I'm sorry, I have to get a little romantic about football here because that's what that was. That, again, whether you want to recognize it, whether you want to admit it or not, that game, that 3-3 game with 400 yards of total offense, that was why you love football. That had all the ingredients of why we all love football. It was awesome. Well, it was great.
Well, that's the thing, right? It's like, okay, there are circumstances where a 3-3 football game is a good football game for 60 minutes. Not that it's bad offense, but it's good defense. Today was one of those games where it was bad football on offense. The defense was great too, but the offense has really struggled. But like you said, the bad football that built up for 59 minutes got us to that absolutely amazing finish. Right. So that's kind of, again, that's why you love football. That's obviously that's your main takeaway. I agree with you. That was the good part of the game. But my main takeaway, you got to look at this offense because the offense needs help. I mean, they scored 3 points, just 3 offensive points. Mac Jones goes 23 of 27, 246 yards. He had a QBR. No, that's passer rating of 104.6. That's a typo on our part, but he had a passer rating of 104.6. Mac Jones himself played pretty well for the circumstances, I thought. But the offensive line needs help. Mac played good in between the 35s, and then it's almost like everything crumbled in front of him, and it didn't allow him to succeed either. I'm having a hard time judging Mac Jones's entire 2022 season, frankly, because everything around him is a mess. And you see it all the time. We'll see it. They're chatting. The comments will blow up that, we're we're homers, and, you guys just bow down to Mac. But no, you literally can't judge him on what he's done and say that it's bad he had 7 offensive linemen rotate in front of him today. He was sacked 6 times. It's a mess. It's like, and even in that mess, he still completes 23 or 27 passes, and they moved the ball and just couldn't get it done. So, they need help somewhere. I don't think it's on Mac Jones. And sort of a question mark built into that is just, are they ever going to figure it out? Because it's been like this all season long. We've had this conversation every single week on the show and on our podcast on Patriots Beat. It's like everybody knows that there's something wrong and it's not being fixed. The injuries along the offensive line are terrible too. David Andrews hurts his thigh today. Looks like he's going to be out for some time. So there's going to be even more rotation on the offensive line moving forward. Isaiah Wynn's banged up now. We didn't hear anything else on him yet, but I don't know what's up with Trent Brown. He didn't start, then he came in the game. There was thoughts that he was sick. I heard on Patriots Postgame from Greg Bedard, Boston Sports Journal, said that there might have been something internally that potentially it was some sort of he violated a team rule. I don't know if he heard this or if this was from him, but there's no real answers on Trent Brown, no real answers on Isaiah Wynn yet, but overall there's just the offense is still a big fat question mark.
Yeah, and it's because the offensive line again. Mac played well today within the context, and look, the fact that it's November and one of his best games of the year is 23 27, 246 yards, no scores, like that's not great.
3 offensive points, right?
Right. And that's more within the context of the offense, but if you're going to sit in the chat and I see the people out there and going to say Mac was bad, Mac's the reason the offense can't move the ball, Mac sucks, play Zappy. By the way, I tweeted when there was Zappy chants, I tweeted about him, and pretty much everybody on Twitter was like, those chants are stupid. That's not the problem. Shout out to everybody who replied for that, for being smart. If you're going to sit here and tell me
Zappy was trending on Twitter today. Zappy was trending on Twitter. Like, what are we doing?
Okay, you didn't cover the 2020 season in Cam and Stidham. That was
Fair.
Another level in terms of the trending. Yeah. If you're going to sit here and tell me that Mac sucked, you'd better have a reason why other than the sacks. And if you're going to come in with the sacks, you better come in with cut-ups, because there was one play I thought maybe he could have gotten rid of it. And if he had one negative play, I'll take that. That's still a pretty 100%. Good day. So, yeah, the offensive line, it's good. It's progress. And you could see his drop. I thought, there's more consideration put in his drop. I thought he certainly looked less panicky in the pocket than he has. He still doesn't look comfortable moving around in the pocket, but I think it's because he's not he doesn't know where he can move. Right.
They don't have a good pocket setup, because they're so inconsistent.
Right. Like Brady would talk about when he had Matt Light as his left tackle early in his career, he always knew he had room to step to the left because Matt Light was always going to be able to give him some space. I don't know that like where's Mac stepping reliably? Where is he stepping from his initial drop back? I thought he had some room to move to the right today at times, but I understand why he may not consider moving to the right an option, given the way Isaiah Wynn has played on that side most of the season, right? So I thought he played well. They got the tight ends involved, which was great. Jonnu, this is back-to-back games with 4 targets for him. It's he has 11 in the last 3. It's 4-3-4 targets for him. Plus, he had a carry as well. They got him more involved, so that was.
He probably would have scored on the carry too if he didn't drop the football.
I didn't say he had a great game, but they got him.
No, I know, involved, which is great. They got to do it.
So that those felt like some of the bye week adjustments we talked about. Now, it was far from perfect for Patricia. The 3rd and 2 quarterback sneak into the 4th and 1 shotgun sweep. Get the hell out of here with that.
It's ridiculous.
That was never going to work. There was a weird play design on a play action on a 3rd down. I don't remember when in the game it was, but basically Mac went play action and came out of the play action into a pulling lineman. The spacing was not there. So there's still a lot to work on with that. It did feel like there were some opportunities for progress, but every time they started to kind of get there to the progress, it fell apart. And the offensive line was a huge part of that. A lot of people have said it in the chat, and they're right. It's really tough to judge the offensive performance as a whole beyond the offensive line because, and I've said this a ton on this show, if you can't get it blocked, it doesn't matter what you're calling down the field. It doesn't matter what you're calling beyond the line of scrimmage if you can't protect the line of scrimmage. So you got to get that figured out. And then, again, the play calling went stagnant at times. The sequence that killed me, really, which was kind of the ultimate, there's potential here, but there's not, it's still just potential. They had a sequence I think it was in the 3rd quarter, where they rolled Mac out on a naked boot, which they've not done this year, which is something they probably should do more. They roll Mac out on a naked boot, left to right. They bring all the receivers from the right side. They cross them over to the left, so it's a clear out. Hunter Henry leaks back through to that side, makes the catch. He ran for, I don't know what it was, 15, 20 yards, something like that. And then off of that look, they run Damian Harris off tackle, and he had his 30-yard run. Mm-hmm. Then all of a sudden, they went into no huddle. And I'm like, all right, they're using setup plays, they're using shot plays, they're going no huddle. Here we go.
Yep.
And then they went into that weird shotgun vertical, basically what they've been doing all year, and they stalled out. Yeah. So it was one of those things they were so close. Hey, there was a flash of it. Right. But then it just stopped. It was almost like they got too close. It's
almost like they get too excited. Yeah.
Because I think they got inside the 30. I think they got inside the 30. If they weren't inside the 30, they were close on that drive. They were right about there. And then, it was, I don't know, they got too close and they panicked or whatever, and it just all fell apart. So again, it's not like it's not there. It is there. When the pieces are in place, it works. It's just, it's too few and far between right now, but it's something.
There. Yeah, it's something where it's I mean, it sounds so obvious, but go and watch the film and take what works and take what doesn't and throw out what doesn't work and just keep using. And it sounds simple, and I mean, it's not, but like it's like you said, it's there. It's there in spurts, and they just need to put it together because I mean, they moved the ball much better than the Jets today. The Jets offensively were terrible. Zach Wilson is just
The Jets need a new quarterback.
yeah.
I'm
The
just going to
Jets
say
need a
that
new
right now.
quarterback. I guess
I
we can
know that
get it. Let's get
I know
into the
there's a lot of
defense.
people that think Mac needs to go. No.
Yeah.
I said this after the first Jets game. I'll say it again. And the Jets offensive line's not bad. It's not good. It's not bad. Negative 21 passing yards. Negative 21 passing yards in the second half. Mike Kadlick. Total yards in the second half for the Jets. That would be Zach Wilson's jersey number 2. After the game, Zach Wilson was asked if he, and by the way, he wasn't the only one asked this. He was asked if he felt like he let the defense down, or if the Jets offense let the defense down. He said no. Garrett Wilson, who's a rookie, he didn't directly say yes, but he said as much. Other players said as much. Zach Wilson, did you let your defense down? No, walked off the podium, which is a shame because I would have had some follow-up questions, such as, really? And why don't you think you did? Because you did. That's a guy that can't play, has lost the locker room. For whatever we're going to say about Mac Jones, Mac Jones has not been perfect this year. His development is not going in the right direction. I will fully admit that. But what's happening with Mac Jones, what's happening with Zach Wilson is the guy that is different. Zach Wilson is the guy that they need to hit the reset button and go back into the carousel and all that. Mac Jones still has a bit of a shot. Zach Wilson has been this guy for 2 years entirely. When I talk about Mac Jones, why do you think he can still do it? He did it last year. Oh, but he sucked down the stretch. He had a pretty good 3 months before that, and he's had flashes since. Zach Wilson has not flashed, and say what you will about what's being said about Mac externally, they still love him in that locker room. He's still very popular in that locker room. If
Zach Wilson's not popular in that Jets locker room,
had any friends in the locker room before today, those are gone. People are liking tweets about him being like on the team. John Franklin Myers liked a tweet about him being an a-hole. Zach Wilson's time in New York is numbered. And as a Patriots fan, that's a bummer because this guy was going to be really fun to beat up on for a couple years. But he's not it. He is.
Yeah.
Mac may or may not be it. Zach Wilson, not it.
Well, like you said, I mean, with Mac Jones, there's clearly things to point to outside of how he's playing that are the reason the Patriots aren't having success. Their offensive line's hurt. Their weapons sometimes aren't great. There's an inept offensive coordinator and people running the offensive scheme. With Zach Wilson, the Jets have a solid offensive line. They have 2 good running backs in Michael Carter and James Robinson. They have 3 very talented wide receivers in Corey Davis, Garrett Wilson, and Elijah Moore. They have serviceable tight ends, and they have a solid play caller from a really good offensive play calling system in Mike LaFleur. And Zach Wilson still can't get it done. Robert Saleh straight up was like, I forget his exact quote after the game, but they said like, what was up with the offense today? And he said it was dog shit, straight up dog shit. And it's like, if that's your head coach going to the podium and saying that, go ahead.
Who is he talking about there? Because
Zach Wilson.
Right. Garrett Wilson was getting open. Denzel Mims
that's what I'm saying.
Drop, but he was getting open. Tyler Conklin was getting open. The offensive line didn't play great, but when he says dog, he's not saying the offense was dog shit. No. That is a PC way of saying my quarterback is dog shit, which Zach Wilson played like today.
Well, you think about Zach Wilson going into this game. The last time they played the Patriots, he was not throwing the football away. He wasn't playing smart football. And he was just chucking the ball over the yard and getting intercepted by Devin McCourty twice and what have you. Today, he was playing way too conservatively. It was like he was nervous to try and make a play. Like you said, these guys are getting open. There was one play specifically in the game where Denzel Mims, wide open down the field. I don't know who he burnt on the Patriots secondary, but he was wide open. Wilson could have hit him for a 50-plus yard gain, and he basically, I don't know if he didn't see him or he was just too scared, but he threw the ball away and just didn't even try and make a play. So it's like, there's got to be a happy medium there for Wilson, and he clearly can't find it, and I don't know if he ever will. He's just, again, not a great quarterback. They only scored 3 points as well. The Patriots defense was sensational. Let's kind of use that to get into our player of the games, because my player of the game here is Matthew Judon. Set a career high in sacks today with 13.5. He now leads the NFL. He had 1.5 today, or 2 today maybe, but whatever. 1.5. Okay, 5 total tackles. I mean, he's always in the backfield disrupting teams. It's not just against the Jets and Zach Wilson. He's done it all season long. There was some wondering this week if he was going to be able to be the same post-bye, because last week there was such the decline. But I mean, he's clearly in the best shape of his career right now. He's going to continue to do this. I don't see anything in his way to stop him. In my opinion right now, or at least up until the end of the Patriots game, he was the defensive player of the year in the NFL. Dallas just went and smoked Minnesota by 35 points, and Micah Parsons had 2 sacks, so I think he might inch him out here now, but it's them two at the top. Judon's one of the best players in the NFL on defense, and clearly the player of the game, in my opinion.
All right, since I would also say Matthew Judon. Since you're taking Matthew Judon, I will say Michael Pilardi. How's it not Bunker? Yeah. And it was in his first game in New England. The winds did him no favors. It was a tough day to kick. 7 punts, only 1 touchback, 2 I-20s, only 1 return, netted over 40 yards a kick. Didn't have any shanks, didn't leave anything short. I mean, he was solid. He was right. It wasn't exact. I wouldn't call it a Hall of Fame performance, but he was good. He was
really good. He was better than Jake Bailey. He was better than anything Jake Bailey did this season.
Yep. So look, his holds, I'm going to need to go back and watch those. And, did his holds impact Nick Folk's misses? I think the one Folk hit off the crossbar was just the wind, and they were kicking him too far out. I was a little surprised they kicked that, to be honest. And that goes back to the offense and his 2 misses. The 2 plays prior to both misses were a sack and a holding penalty. So they did Nick Folk no favors today.
Right.
But I'll go back and check the holds. But on a tough day to kick, Michael Pilardi, and look, it's clearly not an easy day to be a punter. Braden Mann effed up big time today. Effed up big time. So Michael Pilardi, the Michael Pilardi era, off to a good start. No complaints.
Again, I think I don't know. I wonder, they just gave Bailey the new contract this offseason, but I wonder if his days, I mean, again, it's only 1 game, but his days could be numbered here if Pilardi keeps playing that way.
It's going to be interesting to figure out in the offseason how that works with the dead money and everything.
Right, because, I mean, again, Bailey's going to be out for at least 3 more games. If Pilardi keeps kicking this way, I don't see how he gets the job back. Again, it's 1 game for a guy who wasn't on an NFL team before, so you don't know how he's going to respond moving forward, but he was able to flip the field for them every single time he had to punt today, and that's something you can't say about Jake Bailey this year. So that's the punting take. I guess an underrated storyline takeaway, if you will, from my end is just how good Kyle Duggar really is at safety and just the impact he has on the game every single week. There's such a huge difference in this defense every single time he's either on the field or he's not. He was amazing today. He had 7 tackles. He had the sack on Wilson. But he made 2 bone-chilling plays that were just like, holy bleep, this guy is legit. And there was one, it was in the middle of the game. He smoked Michael Carter. I think it was for
I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, it was near midfield. He just
on a run stop. Yeah, just came up and plugged the hole.
Just drilled him on a plug, and it was like, holy crap, this dude's insane. But then the other one was the one that, like you said, 1 game doesn't change a game. 1 plus plays add up on top of each other, and the other one led to the game-winning touchdown from Marcus Jones, and it was 3rd and 1 on that final drive. The Jets were throwing to try and get a first down and keep their drive moving to try and get 3 to win the game at the end. 3rd and 1, quick hitter to Michael Carter, and Kyle Duggar is just right place, right time every single time. Stuffs the Jets, forces them into a 4th and 3. It was a 2-yard loss from Carter. Again, Duggar smokes him, stops him from getting the first down, forces him in a 4th down. Following play, Patriots call timeout, which I didn't think they would. The way that this game was ending towards the end, it was almost like both these teams just want to get to overtime and sort of reset here. But Patriots called the timeout after the stuff, wanted to try and hopefully get 3, trusted Marcus Jones to maybe get them some solid field position, and turns out he takes it all the way to the house. So Kyle Duggar set that one up. He had a great game again, and he's turning himself into one of the better safeties in the NFL right now.
Oh yeah, totally. I have two kind of under the radar takeaways, and one does involve the secondary. They didn't do it a lot, but on some third downs, they went to a corner package with, and Jonathan Jones almost exclusively been on the boundary this year, but they put Jonathan Jones in the slot, Jalen Mills and Jack Jones on the boundary. That's their three best corners on the
Yeah.
field together. Something we have not seen a lot this year. They've really left Jonathan Jones, Jack Jones, and Jalen Mills on the boundary and rotated Miles Bryant, Marcus Jones in the slot. If they're comfortable going with that three-man unit, though, of Jack and Jalen Mills on the outside and Jonathan Jones in the slot, like against the Bills, that's a look we should see, right? Against the Bengals, that's a look you want to see. So the fact that they're comfortable breaking that out, even minimally, we'll see if it was a game plan thing or something they want to build on more. I'd like to see them build on that more. And I'm going to see tomorrow exactly how many snaps they ran it. I don't think it was a lot. I think it was like 5 or 10, but they did it. They did it. They put it out there. So that was cool to see. My other takeaway, Mike, it's been building for a long time. They rotated the running backs.
Yes.
They rotated
and
the
Harris
running backs.
Looked really good. Yeah.
And Damon Harris had a really good game. And you saw Ramondre, he was fine. You could kind of tell, though, even coming off the bye, he looked a little gassed. So
yeah,
he ended up with 21 touches. Damon Harris had 10. So still 2-1. But I thought there were, I have to see the snaps. I think the snaps are going to be closer than the touches were.
Yeah.
Love it. Keep those guys balanced. And you saw the result. Damon Harris comes out there in the second half where Ramondre's handled the workload most of the first half, and he breaks that big run because he had fresh legs. So keep rotating the running backs. Great to see that today.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the box score now and sort of how it lines up, right? I mean, Ramondre got more carries, but Harris led the way as far as rushing yards goes. And I mean, they just kind of were feeding Stevenson at all the wrong times, where it was almost like Harris would get a carry when the offense was rolling and schemed up well and would break one, where it was almost like then Stevenson would get in the game and it was one of those low moments in their offense. And it's like he just gets stuff for 2 yards. So again, he didn't have a great game running the ball today where Harris did, which is a good sign. A, you're splitting up the carries, but B, when one guy isn't great, the other one is. But Stevenson also led them in receiving yards today and receptions. He had 6 catches for 56 yards. He had the long of 18, which was the 3rd and 15, I think, where he just went Marshawn Lynch style beast mode, got them the first down. He is one of the better running backs in the AFC, and he will continue to be that way so long as they continue to take his workload back. Because if he's going to get battered the entire time, it's clear he's going to see a decline. But no, he's a stud, and they broke it up, which was solid.
Yep.
Let's see, just any final overall thoughts on the game. I know, again, I think building off what you just said about the backs, I think it's huge to get Harris going because he had a couple broken runs where it was like the first time we'd seen that in months, and it's good to see when it's not just, it doesn't have to be the Ramondre show the whole time. Receiver-wise, Myers had another okay game, but again, it's like they get there and then they stall, and they're not scheming anything up. Tyquan Thornton had 1 catch for 5 yards. Kendrick Bourne still 1 catch. It's like they need to use these guys to their strengths, and they just haven't done it yet. And you'd think that that's something they worked on the bye, and it didn't seem like it. The idea surrounding the bye week, according to, Dan Orlovsky talked about it, and then Rappaport reported it today, that they're working on, the timing and everything with, max dropbacks versus where these guys are in space, and if they're making sure when he's on his back foot, guys are breaking, etc. But that's not going to work when the offensive line isn't working in front of you. So
right,
they still have a lot of work to do, and I truly don't know if they're ever going to be able to figure it out. But
I mean, they'll figure out in the off season.
Exactly. I'm saying this season,
yeah,
a season where they're now 6-4. They have one of the better defenses, the better playing defenses in the league, and their offense is inept. It's like this defense doesn't deserve what they have on offense right now.
Oh yeah.
But that's sort of, again, those are my quick takeaways. Do you have anything else on the game before we kind of break down the rest of the NFL?
I think that's pretty much it. We can get to more tomorrow if we need to.
Yeah, I was gonna say me and Alex are gonna be back tomorrow as well to do a deeper dive into this game, and then we're also gonna preview Vikings Pats on Thanksgiving tomorrow. So we're gonna do a little double dip. So we'll be back again to get in more in depth after we take a look at the film and have a day to kind of take this all in. But let's go around the NFL quickly before we sign off here and just talk about some things that happened, because I would say that the craziest result today was the 40-3 beatdown of the Vikings in Minnesota today. I don't know what it is. There has to be, I tweeted it out, there has to be some sort of science behind why Kirk Cousins is so bad outside of the 1 o'clock window. Because they're just, it's like he plays at 1 and he is a freak of nature quarterback. And anytime he doesn't play outside of there, he's a trash can. And I don't fully understand it. But I think that's the biggest game that was on the slate today, because of just, how big of a margin of victory it was, but also the fact the Patriots have to play the Vikings next week. And are they going to be down for the count, or are they going to be ready to play? That's kind of a mystery right now.
Well, look, it's going to be interesting. Christian Darrisaw left that game with a concussion,
Yep.
his second in 2 weeks. So you can have Matthew Judon working on a backup left tackle. I got to run through some of these box scores like here live, because obviously I've been following the Patriots. Justin Jefferson, 3 for 33. I know he was dealing with a turf toe issue going in, so that Patriots might get him shorthanded. Darrisaw seems unlikely to play at least, and then if Jefferson's not out there, I mean, Dalvin Cook can play. I don't know that I'm so scared of Dalvin Cook. TJ Hawkinson, Kyle Duggar took care of him earlier this year when he was with Detroit. So that defense is good, not great. They've got a couple players. Patrick Pete, they got like a, past his prime Patrick Peterson, past his prime Harrison Smith. Zadarius Smith's kind of, still good, but not what he was. So it's going to be interesting to see how that one, I almost said it's going to be interesting to track the injury reports this week. It's more like track the injury report this week.
Yeah, there's going to be one on Tuesday probably?
Tuesday. I don't know if there's one on Monday. I don't remember how that works, but
sometimes they do it like, if we were to have practice, this is what our injury report would look like. And they're required to do something like that. But
so we'll see Monday. We'll see Monday and Tuesday, but they might get the Vikings at the right time.
Well, that's the thing. It's like the way I was sort of tracking this was the Vikings are on such a roll, so maybe they can catch them off guard. They're rolling and they think they're invincible, and all of a sudden the Patriots come in and hit them in the mouth, and that's sort of the game where they fall off. But now the way they fell off today against Dallas, it's almost like, okay, this team who we're actually pretty good, and we just we fell off short here. They might be out and trying to roar and, beat down a little bit more.
What's crazy about the Vikings is they're 8-2 and they have a scoring margin on the season of -2.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's obviously, again, it's skewed. It's tough to kind of look at it like that because they did get spanked today, but that just shows that the games that they win, they've been close, and the games that they lost have obviously been sort of blowouts. But Bills win again. They get off the schneid after losing last week, that heartbreaker or whatever you want to call it, to the Vikings. Josh Allen, I'm going through box scores now too to just kind of break. Yeah. Josh Allen was pedestrian. He was threw for under 200 yards, 1 touchdown, only sacked twice. Dawson Knox was their leading receiver. They didn't get Diggs going today. There was a clip I saw on Twitter where Diggs and Sean McDermott were kind of going at it. So, I don't know. That team can just kind of find a way to win, I feel like, because they are so talented. But the last 2 years, they've been the Bills, and they've been the big bad Bills, but they haven't gone like this every single season. It's been up and down the whole way. So I know that's sort of your thing. I know you're anti-Bills. I don't know if that's more the Patriots fan leaking out of you, or that's just, I know you kind of have a...
I've said this before. I think the most underrated trait in sports is consistency.
Right.
The Bills are great when they're at their peak, but teams don't play at their peak all the time. It wouldn't be a peak. I don't love... The Bills at their peak are excellent, but for every time they're that, you get games like today, or you get games like last week. So, like you said, Josh Allen was pedestrian. I don't think his elbow is necessarily right.
Right.
It's the whole thing with the travel just felt a little mentally soft to me. So we'll see where they're at. They're still a good team. They're still one of the best teams in the AFC, obviously, but coming into the season, they were the, I don't even want to say consensus Super Bowl pick. Like I was called an idiot for not picking them to win the Super Bowl. People were talking about an undefeated season and saying anybody but Josh Allen would win the MVP is sacrilege. And now here we are. So it's just, they're a good team. They're just, they're another good team. Like there's been good teams in the league. Like the Chiefs have been good and the Steelers have been good for years and the Titans have been good. And, Everybody wants them to be the Patriots so bad. Everybody wants them to be that tier that doesn't really exist, that the Patriots were in when they were at their peak. The Patriots are in a tier that nobody else is in, nobody else ever been in.
And
And
no one
everybody
ever
wants to
will
put the
be.
Bills in that tier. They're not. They're, again, the Chiefs. They're with I keep going to the Steelers because they're like a blue blood. I know they haven't been good in a couple of years, but like what the
Right.
Steelers were for a couple of years, what the Broncos were for a couple of years, they're that. They're among the teams in the top tier. They're not in a tier of their own.
No. The other game that was a crazy finish was Raiders Broncos. It was the battle of suck. Me and John Zanis on Patriots CLNS Twitter went through some gambling picks this week, and we were just talking about how that game is just the battle of who can suck less is going to win that game, and
Right.
it ended up being an exciting finish. Raiders pulled out 22-16 in overtime. Devontae Adams had 2 touchdowns. Russell Wilson probably had one of the better games of his season, but they only ends up putting up 16 points. He didn't throw a touchdown. He had a good completion percentage. They moved the ball a little bit, but um, again, that's just a game where it's like it's one of those fun games where both teams aren't really playing for anything right now. They're just kind of out there playing football, and it ended up being an exciting finish. Devontae Adams has 2 touchdowns, like I said. Derek Carr had a good game too, 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. There was a rumor this week that Derek Carr could end up being released after the season. I don't know where the Raiders are going to go after the season anyway, if McDaniels is still going to be the guy there, if they're going to move on with Carr. The reason they brought in Devontae Adams partly was because of his relationship with Derek Carr. They played together at Fresno State, so that team's kind of a mess, but they finally pulled out and they got themselves a 3-7.
Yeah, I mean, that might have been the 2 worst coaches in the league. Brandon Staley's
Yeah.
up there, but Nathaniel Hackett said this week somebody has to win that game, and almost nobody
Yeah.
did. It was almost a tie, and then he lost. So, battle of the shoulda, woulda, couldas. Both of those teams, in theory, should have probably been good this year. Probably should have been in that tier I was just talking about, and for various reasons, neither one is. But close football is close football. It's always watchable when it's close.
They're the 2 teams that the Patriots and Jets were this week. It's like the entire AFC East is in the playoff picture. 3 teams are in the wild card. That's what the AFC West was supposed to be. It was supposed to be the Chiefs or the Chargers at the top, the other 3 the wild card spots, and those teams have just been a disaster. One more game before we kick it. Ravens-Panthers. Ravens win 13-3. A close game throughout the whole thing. Baker Mayfield stunk again. Lamar Jackson wasn't great. Had a turnover, but they pull it out as well. The Ravens moved to 7-3. Again, I don't know what to make of the AFC North because it's sort of the Ravens and the Bengals going back and forth. The Bengals win today 37-30. But just, I don't know, your thoughts on that game and your thoughts on the NFC North, or the AFC North rather, in general, and who you think is the best team in that division.
Well, yeah, I'll throw in the one other game, and I generally go back through and actually watch the games Monday morning, but the one game I actually did get to watch a little bit of, because it was on in the press box when we were writing, was Bengals-Steelers. And that Bengals team is really interesting. I mean, they're very, and they still don't have Jamar Chase, so maybe this changes when he comes back and he's expected to be back for the Patriots matchup. They're very grip and rip it. They're just kind of, go for the big shot. Whatever happens, happens. And those are teams the Patriots have been very successful against. So I found myself rooting for the Steelers. That's a rare one. Unfortunate they couldn't pull it out. Not surprising, but unfortunate. Would have been a huge boost for the Patriots if the Bengals had lost that game.
Yeah, wild card wise,
Like, again, I was talking to Aaron Schatz of Football Outsiders about this earlier today. And I think we've talked about this little on the show. And this goes back to the Bills thing. People say, oh, the Bills are the only great team in the NFL this year. And it's everybody else. Or some people say the Eagles are the only great team. Because and anytime you throw out another team, you throw out the Chiefs, throw out the Titans, throw out the Vikings, right? Who have they beat? Well, if only one team is great and nobody's beating that one team,
right?
Is anybody great?
No.
Is that one team great? Like, because who have they beat, right? Who have they beat? So it just kind of, I thought today was just a really good example of the insane parity we've seen in the NFL this year. Nobody is better or worse than anybody else. I shouldn't say nobody. Like,
no, it makes it fun though. It's like there's no
it's very fun.
There's no clear-cut steamroller to the Super Bowl. Even like you said, the Eagles showed they were vulnerable last week against the Commanders. This week they just barely pull it out against the Colts, who have Jeff Saturday at the helm. So it's just every team's beating up on each other.
Right. I would say it's 10, 11 teams in the AFC, and then probably 10 teams in the NFC that are like, there's some variation between 1 and 10. I'm not saying that the Chiefs are the same team as like the Chargers, but like they're all, you got close games every week because the gap isn't that big between 1 and 10.
Right.
One's better than 10, but the gap between 1 and 10 this year is significantly smaller than the gap between 1 and 10 in past years. And I thought this was kind of such an emblematic week of what the 2022 NFL season has been. And by the way, what college football is also apparently this year, that nobody's great and everybody's kind of around the same. So great year football, 2022, just excellent calendar year for the sport as a whole. But this was a very 2022 week. Everybody's kind of, there's some bad teams. There's certainly some bad teams. I think the Texans got shellacked.
The Texans
today,
are
right?
really bad. Yeah, they got smoked by Washington.
They're really bad. They got shellacked. Even the Rams played close. Like, they're not good. The Colts played the Eagles close, right? The Panthers are supposed to be really bad. They played the Ravens. Like, all right, the Texans are really bad.
Every team's vulnerable. Every team can be beat on any Sunday. It's truly an any given Sunday type of season.
So I'm looking at this right now. The only 2-score games, Titans Packers on Thursday, but that was like close.
Right.
Ravens Panthers, again, close, 10 points in the fourth quarter. The Commanders blew out the Texans, who stink.
Yep.
The Lions beat the Giants by 2 scores, upset, and the Cowboys beat the Vikings 40-3, upset.
Yep.
Everybody's right there with everybody else. It's interesting. It's fascinating.
It's a fun year. It's a fun year of football, Barth. I wonder again just what the Patriots, if they can get into the mix towards the end, because, looping this back to the Patriots and sort of how they played today, right? It's one of those seasons where football's always fun. Obviously, we love football here on the show, but like, it's, can they hang, right? Because they are 6-4 and they are cemented into that playoff mix right now. They currently hold on to a spot, but how good can they be the rest of the way against teams like the Bengals and the Vikings, etc.? I mean, these teams that every team has shown so far that they can be beat on any Sunday, but I'm curious to see just how much adjustment the Patriots can truly make to kind of make themselves contenders here down the stretch. We'll see how that goes, though. Alex, thanks for joining me here for the last 40 minutes or so. Again, thanks you all for watching. We just did a quick hitter to kind of break this one down, but we will be back tomorrow to go even more in depth into Patriots Jets once we take a look here at the film a little bit more. And we're going to do a double dip tomorrow night and do Jets breakdown and Vikings preview before Thanksgiving night. So make sure to tune into that. Follow Alex on Twitter at @RealAlexBarth and read his stuff on 985thesportsup.com. You can do the same for me at Mike Kadlick on Twitter, and then check out my stuff on CLNSmedia.com as well. That's it for us. Again, thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow night.